Welcome to the Seeking Clear podcast. This is a show about searching for the things that we all want. Better health, better relationships, meaningful and productive work, and clarity about the life that we are living. I am your coach and your host, Andrew Wuellner, and I'm bringing you amazing interviews with incredible people, meaningful stories, and powerful lessons every week, so that you can learn from real experts and teachers about how to fix your life, how to consistently improve yourself, and how you, in your own way, can keep seeking clear. Welcome to the show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Seeking Clear podcast. I am super excited to bring you today's episode, which features Kurt Schiewetz from Conscious Modern Living. He is an incredible teacher. In fact, right now, while I am filming this editing, he is in Thailand at a 6-month-long healing retreat, learning from teachers and experts in his field. And I've been watching his stories on Facebook. He's doing incredible things. He's always traveling the world learning. And having him on the show to learn from him and be able to ask him these questions and just hear what he has to say about things that so many of us struggle with in our own heads was a privilege. It was incredibly profound. And I just finished editing the episode, and rewatching it made me realize how powerful this episode actually really is. I mean, Kurt is the person that I wish I had in my life 5 years ago. 6 years ago, when I was depressed and anxious and confused and lost, because his wisdom and his empathy and his kindness they're perceptible. It's tangible in this episode. So if you guys are struggling with things like anxiety, high levels of stress, confusion, self-doubt, this episode is going to be really valuable to you. If you've wanted to learn more about meditation or mindfulness or presentness, this episode is going to be really useful to you. There is a lot of value in the conversation that I have with Kurt. So I'm not going to hold you guys much longer. I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you are listening to the episode, you can watch it on the YouTube channel over at Andrew Wuellner. And if you're watching it, you can listen to it in your car. If you go check it out on Spotify, it will be up with all of the major platforms as soon as I get this podcast all sorted out and launched, because this is the first interview that I did. So I'm super excited to bring this to you guys. Please enjoy the episode and let me know what you think in the comments. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Today's guest is someone I have the pleasure of calling both a friend and a teacher of mine. He is the founder of Conscious Modern Living, an entrepreneur, and a metaphysical coach for high performers. He spent the first half of his professional life, like so many of us do, climbing the corporate ladder, only to eventually find a deep and profound dissatisfaction and unhappiness with his life. Feeling unhealthy, unhappy, and burned out, he began a new journey, which led him into the second half of his career, which he is now deeply invested in, traveling all over the world to places like Peru, Costa Rica, Colombia, Israel, Mexico, Thailand, and Italy. He is focused solely on learning and growing on an impressively dedicated path to finding inner peace. He spends his time sharing his wisdom and techniques with an audience that mostly consists of other entrepreneurs, professionals, and executives who seek him out to discover fulfillment and find happiness by merging together mental and physical upgrades to their life with his unique metaphysical process. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to welcome Kurt Schiewetz. Welcome to the show, Kurt.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's such a pleasure to be here. I feel like every time we talk, our conversations are super powerful. So I'm more than excited that we're now opening this up to the public. And this is going to be a really powerful time today. So I'm ready to jump right in. Thanks for that intro.
Yeah, I am excited to bring you on the show because you, unlike some of my other guests, you actually are one of my teachers. Kurt has taught me a lot about, I guess the best way to say it is mindset. And in the past, I've dealt with a lot of anxiety and stress. And just a few years ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD. So I've got a lot of clutter up here, like a lot of noise. And I reached out to Kurt because the stuff that he posts on his social media is so simple and so profound, but just reading his words and looking at the pictures of him and the smile he always has on his face, you can tell that he's doing something right. And so something just told me one day, like, reach out to him, tell him what you're struggling with, and just like ask him for advice. And so Kurt ended up talking with me on a video call for like 2 hours the first time, didn't charge me anything, didn't try to sell me anything. He just walked me through what I was feeling and gave me some really practical exercises that ended up helping me a lot. So really happy to have you on the show, because I know that you are a person who truly cares about what you teach and how you're able to help the lives of those around you. So let's start with Asia, because I know you're leaving for Asia again in like 2 weeks or so. And so I'm super glad I got you here while you still have a good internet connection. But tell us where you're going, what you're hoping to accomplish, and how long you're going to be there for.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is actually the largest trip of my entire life. Around October, for the past 4 years, I've actually done an international trip. This is when I first started traveling every year for the past 4 years. But this is the only time that I'm actually going to kind of like live in another place for 6 months. So I'll be going to Thailand and traveling to this island called Koh Phangan. I'll also be visiting Malaysia and some other places along the way. But I'll be staying at this island called Koh Phangan primarily because, as you know, it's really important to have a mentor, always be learning, always be leading in your own way. And so I'll actually be spending about 2 months receiving continuous education in this practice of that I call metaphysical transformation. And so I have a few mentors who are hosting a retreat, so I'll be doing that for about 2 months. And then for the remaining 4 months, 6 months, I'll just be sharing everything that I learn and bring it out to more people, and just doing the whole online coaching at the same time, which I'm really excited about. This place called Koh Phangan is one of my favorite places in the entire world. And so, yeah, that's what I'll be doing for that time.
That's awesome. So what kind of activities and like things are you going to be studying while you're there? Like, can you give us specifics?
Yeah, absolutely. So the basis of what I teach and what I do basically every minute of every day is this learning that we all have a creative genius inside of us. It's connected to the truth of your own heart. And this energy of what is in every single person inside this planet guides you to your highest fulfillment possible in every area of life. And so basically in order to awaken this creative genius inside of yourself, what we do is we just do a practice of self-awareness, looking at what you said, your mindset. You know, what recurring thoughts, beliefs, perspectives do we have on a daily basis? Seeing that with clarity, and then doing certain breathing practices, doing an act of self-awareness to release that through the physical. That's why I call it metaphysical. It's taking what you find in your mindset and then releasing it through the physical, so that the clarity, the intuitive clarity of your creative genius becomes more clear in every moment. And this is where all the business ideas, this is where the inspirations come from a place of peace, from a place of joy, from a place of love, that comes when you release things that are blocking you, or the clutter, as you might say, outside of your physical body. And so this is a continuous practice. It's not like you reach a certain level and then you're like there. It's this continuous practice where you can always become more and more clear, always become more and more free, so that you can, in every moment, know whether to turn left or right to move to your highest fulfillment possible. And so why I'm doing this with specific mentors is because this process, while it's done on an individual level, it also accelerates the more that you do with other people. This is why I give people coaching sessions and train people on this, because when you're with another person, you get feedback from someone who isn't in your world only. They see your life from an outside perspective, and they might be able to show you what I call blind spots, or things that you don't know, right? If someone's in a certain pattern of thinking or pattern of action, and they're not aware of that pattern, someone else who's on the outside can then bring that awareness to them, so that they can shift whatever clutter, whatever thing is blocking them, and accelerate this practice. And this is why I am making the decision to travel literally halfway across the planet and spend a lot of time with my mentor, who is able to show me, and as well as a group of mentors, right? There's lots of people going to this who are able to show me more with much more clarity than I'm able to do just by myself. And so that's a little bit of a summary. I know I just talked a lot, but
no, that's perfect. I love the details. Yeah, what you just said about the value of other people being able to show you things that you're not aware of. I love that you said that, because that's something I say all the time in my YouTube videos and with my clients. And that is my strongly held belief that every single person in this world probably has something they could teach you.
Mm.
I feel like having mentors who have been through what you're going through or have expertise in areas where you don't can definitely like help show you new doors. But sometimes just average people who might not be a mentor, might not be a coach or a specialist or an expert, sometimes they can just watch you do something or listen to what you say as like a third party, and they're able to point things out about you that you never realized. Like my wife does this
Mm.
to me all the time. I'll say something and she'll look at me and be like, you say that a lot. And like just that alone, I'll stop and think about it and be like, man, you're right. Like I do say that a lot. Like, why do I say that so much? And then I end up digging down and finding something. So I love the fact that you see the very real value in just connecting with lots of people on a deep level. And I don't think people do that enough these days. There's not enough community among lots of people. But let's go back to the beginning here. Let's backtrack. So tell us a little bit about your corporate job, and tell us what you did, what you were experiencing, why it wasn't working out, and then tell us if there was a specific moment or an experience that made it abundantly clear to you that you needed to make a change. Like, how did that play out? How did you exit that part of your life?
Absolutely. So this is really where I feel like my whole adult life journey started. In college, like most people at a very young age, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And I just kind of made the assumption like, hey, my father is in the finance world. I'm going to get a finance major and just kind of follow in his footsteps, right? That was literally all the brain power that I put into it. And so I went after it. And it was really easy for me to figure out what I needed to do next. I ended up getting a financial analyst job at one of the highest corporations. And really, like, I thought like I had kind of succeeded.
You did what you were told to do, just like the rest of us, right?
Yeah. And for a while, it felt like that way until about 2 months on the job, where I kind of just realized that I was feeling super out of place, extremely miserable, at the office like 8 a.m., staying till 9 p.m. some days. And yeah, and then I started to, for the first time, like overeat and just be super stressed out, didn't have time for the gym. And it was just any sense of joy and happiness and fulfillment was just completely gone. And then it became, okay, how do I find a new job? And then went through that whole process of learning personal development, learning how to prioritize my time and find a new job. And for a while, it was like that became my mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then I became extremely obsessed with progressing because I didn't like where I was at. I was able to switch out of finance into product management. And then all of this led to quite possibly one of the darkest moments of my entire life, I would say, looking back with more clarity. I was able to get a job in product management. It became all about, like you said, the corporate ladder and getting that promotion, because I saw that the way to freedom was to make more money. And the only way I knew to make more money was to get promoted. And so I put all of my energy literally into this one goal. And I sacrificed a lot in my life. I was in a relationship, long-time relationship, that because I was so obsessed, it was very hard for me to stay intimate with other people because it was just all about the goal. And all of my energy just went into this. And I didn't realize that I was suffering the whole time and trying to get to the goal. And I'll never forget the day I actually became promoted. It was the day it got announced. We went out to lunch, and I was with the director of the company. The director of the company came, or the director of my branch of the company, and my manager and some other people. And I literally had been thinking about this day for years. And I was just like, oh my God, this is everything to me. Like, I just want like this promotion. I wanted people to make more money. My job title will be like, it was like early promotion, right? Because it was like I was a new graduate. So I wanted to get that like early promotion because that somehow that was what my mind thought was the epitome.
Right.
And it was that day sitting at lunch where I thought that I should be happy. I got the promotion, right? And I remember sitting there, and the director of our branch looked over at me, and there was one other guy who got promoted too. And we were like one of the only people, right, in like our section of the company. And I remember him just asking me, like, "Are you happy?" And I just remember standing there, and it was like the world slowed down into slow motion. And it was like this intense heaviness was like dragging it. And I just remember looking at his face and being kind of like dumbstruck with myself, because I was literally feeling so unhappy at that moment, even though I had achieved the goal, even though I had gotten the promotion. And I remember looking back at him and just saying, yeah. And it was literally one of the biggest lies of my entire life. And after that day, I think I went home, and I didn't do anything the rest of that day, because I just realized, like, holy crap, this is not what I'm here to do. And I thought about it long and hard, and that really got me to think, like, okay, what is it that I'm here to do, right? Am I just here to do something that I thought my father wanted me to do? Or like, am I here to, what I now awaken my creative genius and do the only thing that I'm actually here to do? And I'm not here to glorify, like, this did put me on an entrepreneurial journey after that. I was like, I took to social media after that, but I'm not here to glorify entrepreneurialism in that sense. I have a lot of clients who are software engineers and are managers, and like, that's in their, creative genius to like transition in a new role, or to like just do whatever is in their heart, right? But for me in that path, it was really seeing with clarity of like, wow, what my mind thought would bring me happiness was not the case. And that really launched me into a path of self-awareness. Because if I could spend so much energy and time and effort and money and sacrifices and mistakes on something that isn't actually going to give me what my mind thinks it's going to give me, then what's the point? That's what I call a waste of life. That's when I would gain clarity on, okay, if I follow what my mind is trying to tell me going this way, and it doesn't lead me to the result, then, okay, maybe there's a new energy. Maybe there's a new motivation that I can tune into that will show me a new way to go. And this is what launched me into trying to find that new sense of guidance, which in my opinion now comes from the creative genius that is inside my heart. So that's a little bit of the summary of how it all started for me.
That resonates with me so much, because it reminds me of my own life. I mean, gosh, it was 6 years and some change ago. I was coming home from West Point, and I think actually either the first or the second episode of this podcast, I haven't posted any of them yet at the time of this filming. One of those episodes will be me telling my audience about my story. And I went to West Point for 8 years. I slaved away in school. I built the perfect resume. I got the scholarships, class president, varsity tennis team captain, student council, National Honor Society. I slaved away to get into this school because I wanted to be an officer. I wanted the prestige. I think most of all, I was significance driven. And over the course of my high school career and my early college career, I had held this one goal up so high and put it on such a pedestal that all sense of reality had abandoned me at that point. And I thought that once I got that acceptance letter, I would be complete. I would have the West Point box checked off, and my girlfriend was engaged to me. She was my fiance. I had a supportive family. I was getting really into fitness. I was in great shape. I had good grades. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. And I thought West Point was going to be like the cherry on top, right? Kind of like your promotion. When I got there, kind of just like that lunch you had. I mean, the second day that I was at West Point, life just slapped me across the face, because I realized, like, this isn't the end. Like, this isn't the destination. I've completely lost sight of who I am and my growth. And like the 8 years I've been pursuing this, I haven't acknowledged all of the changes that have happened.
Yeah.
And I guess you could say I fell behind on keeping up with myself. And so after quitting West Point, after about a month, I came home, I was depressed, I was anxious, had no direction whatsoever. And it took me all those years to catch up with where I had actually gone, you know? And so, yeah, your story resonates with me. And I think it'll probably resonate with a lot of people, because people have that tendency to create that perfectionist, completionist illusion. Like, if I just get this one thing, you know, I'll be complete. And it's just so far from the truth. So I love that you said that. Now, after you realize that, after you had that lunch that day and you're like, okay, this promotion isn't what I thought it was, I need to do something else. How quickly did you react to that emotion? Did you take your time and kind of make a plan, like, okay, I'm going to quit my job and then I'll do this and I'll start learning about this? Or did you just do it and like take a leap of faith, like jump off the cliff, learn how to fly on your way down? What did that look like?
It was definitely more of a jump off the cliff, and I was just like, okay, I still hadn't really learned kind of the practice that I teach now, which is how to gain self-awareness and transform limitations in the mindset through the body. And so it was very much a reaction, you know, and this reaction, however, there was some good in it. And for me, I feel like in this lesson, how it ties into what we first talked about was, that was the first time I learned the lesson of humility, because I saw very clearly, although I did react and go like jump off the cliff right afterwards, I saw very clearly that I thought that I knew what was like happening, right?
Oh, yeah.
I was very certain, you know, like you said, this is what's right for me. I was like, I knew it. And when that failed, when that didn't give me the happiness I thought, and I had the money, I got the promotion, I was living in the city, I was like, you know, it was like, by all measures of like evidence, like I should have been totally happy and fulfilled, but I wasn't, you know? And so that really opened me up to the lesson of humility. That was when I started to be able to reach out to other people for help. That was when I opened up to the concept of just like, maybe I don't know what is right for me. Maybe I don't know the path to get there. Maybe I can ask and get more support from other people. And so it did put me on this sort of journey where then I was open to like outside help, outside resources, and from people who were not in my current reality. I'm not talking about like, I was already getting help from friends, and, you know, I would talk about this type of stuff with people I know. But then I really like opened up to this idea that there's people out there who already have accomplished what I want. And so I'll be able to pursue it. And so I just started sharing stuff on social media, and then I started to get help from mentors. But another trap that I fell into was I still didn't have that confidence that comes from what I call awakening your creative genius. And so I also fell into another trap of trying to follow a formula for what someone else says is the way to happiness or the way to achieve freedom or fulfillment. And this didn't actually work out for me either. At first it was like, I know what's best. And then it was like, okay, I don't know what's best. I'm just going to follow what this other person says and follow this like formula that someone else made, that helped them. And this actually led me to sort of make a lot of mistakes in my entrepreneurial journey. Of course, now I see those mistakes were essential for my own growth. But that led me to kind of like the second kind of key piece of really seeing with clarity, okay, what is it that I'm here to do, you know? And it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't come down to following a formula for what someone else says, hey, this is the way, you know? Anytime you work with another mentor and another person, my highest recommendation is to find a mentor who helps you determine the best way forward, isn't telling you what to do, is asking you questions, giving you clarity so that you're coming to the realizations. Does that make sense? I'm sure you might have had some experiences like that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I see people arguing all the time in some of these coaching groups I'm in about like what makes a good coach. And I like to read through the opinions just, you know, because everyone has someone to teach you, right? But the opinions that I always end up agreeing with are like the most simply, it's usually like 1 or 2 sentences. And it's just someone in the corner who typed a response that doesn't have any likes. And all it says is like, a teacher tells you what to do, but a coach helps you figure out what to do. And like, I think that's it. Like, that's part of the reason why our education system is so broken. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why our education system is broken. We're not going to talk about that. But I think that's one of the big reasons is the textbooks and the material and the curriculum. It's old. It can't keep up with the way society's changing. And they're telling you to memorize things. They're telling you to look at these formulas and memorize exactly how things are, instead of teaching you how to kind of find your own way and how to think.
And most people just use Google and Wikipedia to look up all the stuff now anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about schools as long as you wanted to. I think there's so many things wrong with it. But like, that's why so many people, I think, are seeking out coaches and mentors these days, because we're realizing, like, even you and I, we have our degrees, we have our education, and we had our careers, and we're realizing, like, this isn't actually relevant to my happiness or my impact or like the things that I thought I wanted. Yeah. And so we're looking out there for other people who aren't part of the system, who actually see things differently. And man, yeah, I totally get it. But let's pivot again here. So I know for a fact that you practice a lot of meditation and mental exercises. And I know just as well as anyone else that meditating and trying to control your thoughts and emotions is incredibly hard. So in your opinion, and from your experience, why do most people fail to get good at things like this? And what kinds of tools or advice or exercises have helped you become an expert at it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing to understand with meditation, and the biggest mistake that I make people make, is they make meditation into a thing that they have to do. And it ends up turning into another thing on the to-do list. So it's actually doing the...
Pause right there. Write that down. Say that one more time, Kurt.
Yeah, so this is like easily the biggest mistake that people make, is they turn meditation into another thing on the to-do list. So it literally creates, its result is it does the exact opposite of what it's trying to do. And this is why... This is why I literally, like, when clients sign up with me, like, I tell them, like, don't meditate. Like, don't turn this into another thing that's stressing you out, because then it's literally performing the exact opposite. And it doesn't even go to show that meditation, at most, 20 minutes, like, your whole life is you're awake for 16 to 20 hours a day, so it's like your life, like, even if you meditate for 20 minutes, it's like the rest of your life, that's the opportunity for growth, and that's why it comes down to much more for meditation as a practice that is very suited for the Eastern world. And so now when we look at the Western world, what is, like, what I mean by Western world is, like, we grew up in America, Western society, which is heavily dominated by things to do, business, economy, and the things of our life. And so what's way more important in our lives is time, because we all are stressed out. We all have so much that we need to do. And so rather than thinking about, I need to meditate, which is just another thing on the to-do list, how do I cultivate more awareness and presence in this moment right now? And turning it more or less into a meditation that you specifically do into just a constant act of self-awareness and constant act of more presence. And this is most important with tasks that really annoy you, and a lot of the busy work, right? If you can literally just turn that into your meditation just by being present and being aware in this moment, and I have some things that might help you with that. That is so much more powerful than meditation. Your ability, and this is another really important thing, your ability to be more at peace and to navigate your creative genius to be able to come to higher outcomes has nothing to do with how long you can meditate. Nothing to do with what visions you can see, and has everything to do with how you handle the challenges in your life. And that's what's more important for the Western world, because the truth of the matter is that we're really stressed out people. We have lots of things to do. And so that can be, that is your meditation, but it's how you handle the stress, the challenges, and how you overcome adversity. This is like the difference that I help share with people. And one way to actually increase this is learning how to change your breathing, and just being more open. Most people meditate within their nose and they force themselves to breathe in a certain way. I say, just open your mouth, and it's amazing. Like when you're stressed out and taking one deep belly breath and opening up from the chest, opening up from the stomach, opening up from the mouth, and doing this every day. So that would be my biggest piece of advice is stop trying to meditate. And I know that this is like not what's normally made, but like,
well, like you said, it's not a checklist. Like it's not a formula, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't learn everything as if it were like a piece of information in a textbook, and especially when you're trying to learn how to be present. So,
and this was super duper important for me when I was working 8 to 9 p.m. Right? It was like I'd still be waking up at 5 a.m. and meditating for an hour before that, and so that created a whole lot of extra stress in me. Versus, going throughout your day and just breathing throughout the day and allowing that energy that you get just simply from a practice of cultivation, moment by moment by moment by moment, that will bring you way more to the results that you want to in life, way faster than just a simple daily habit that you go to as a temporary relief. It's like if you just are peaceful for 20 minutes in the meditation room and then the rest of your day you're stressed out and angry and pissed and depressed, and it's like there's like literally no point whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, I'm right now I'm working on another webinar for the Coaching Conversion Blueprint course, and man, some of these slides are just such a pain to put together, and like when I'm working on it I just want to be doing something else.
Yeah.
So like what are some ways for me to stay present when I'm working on a task like that, where I actually, I have to be focused on what I'm typing because I'm writing sales copy. I'm actually, looking at figures and statistics, but like my brain wants to be somewhere else. Like what are some little tricks I could use to try to be more present and turn that into a meditation? I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that specific task, the more you can just be like, use your senses in that moment. And it's like, if you have to type and your mind has to be focused and just becoming really, really, really aware and into it, and really just notice the thoughts in your mind. That's literally all you have to do in that moment. Is if you have a thought and you're aware of it, that awareness is the growing of presence. If you can just recognize your thoughts as thoughts themselves, even in the moment, even, typing away, doing whatever you do, recognizing those thoughts, that awareness is the growing of presence. And in those moments, that's pretty much all that you can do. It may, however, be useful that you take just 10, 20 seconds, really just breathe, before doing it, and then go back to it, right? Mm-hmm. And then, taking a deep breath. This is what I call sitting and standing. So I teach people a way to continuously recognize, okay, when they're creating more stress in their life, or when stress is naturally rising, in those moments. And then instead of acting it out, instead of believing that, hey, doing this is my highest productivity, is instead taking just 5 minutes and literally learning how to breathe it out of your system. Then you might find that task to actually be different. It's not that task that's stressful at all. The task itself is just you having to type, right? It's just things that need to get there. It's just our own reaction to that task. And so when you learn how to address your reaction, sit, address your reaction, and then you can stand and keep working, you might find that task actually change. You might actually find that the task itself might become more awesome, more beautiful, and more present. This is at least the experience that I'm having. A lot of the things that used to trigger me, I used to find more hard or didn't want to do, I find that when I address my reaction, hey, wow, this is actually really fun. And then you can put on some music and groove to it or whatever, you can do or not. It really depends, right? Your heart knows the way.
I love that. That's good stuff. Yeah. When you said notice your thought, that reminds me of the book that you told me to read last time we talked, Practicing the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I have now listened to it on my Audible 3 times. And so I'm going to skip ahead because this question's later in the script. But is that the number one book you would recommend for the average person? Or is there another book that's your favorite on these kinds of topics? Tell us.
Absolutely. I honestly Power of Now is So one thing that I do at these retreats is we learn how to release negative thought patterns, negative emotions from our body. In doing that, you become a lot more sensitive to energy, right? So when I listen to a teacher, I can really feel like where they're coming from and how that's affecting me. That's why I don't watch the news like that often anymore, right? And so literally, yeah, I know, right? Unless I'm doing it as a way to take responsibility and active self-awareness. But this book, Power of Now, this book comes with this teacher, Eckhart Tolle, who for decades is one of those people who has fully, like literally, and some of your viewers might be able to feel the truth to which I'm talking about, is this guy has fully released all stress from his system, right? Literally, fully released all negativity from his system and lives completely from his creative genius. This is how he's able to write a book that has sold over 5 million copies. I follow this guy all over the place. He travels the world just like constantly teaching, constantly helping other people, you know? And so when you listen to him, you're receiving his energy of total peace, total creativity, total joy. And so that's why I literally feel like this guy, not only that, but he's not some guy from the East or some, Indian dude who talks in a really weird way. He actually is from Western origin. And so he's literally put together a blueprint of what the cause of most dysfunction in most people's lives, which is, like you said, mindset. It's your own mind. It's your own, the mechanisms of what we call the egoic mind that cause ourselves to either be in the past and the future and not fully present, not fully here now, not coming from a place of love, joy, peace, and bliss, but instead sabotaging all of our actions. And so he puts this in a way that the Western mind can really understand, in a way that you can really relate to. And for some people are like, wow, this guy, how do you listen to him without falling asleep? And I'm like, just try going on a walk first. But once you feel the experience of what he's pointing to an energy of presence. And in this energy of presence is the access point to your creative genius. And this is where you can literally be in any task in life and be totally fulfilled, totally joyful when you learn how to shift your mindset, when you learn how to release negativity from the body. And so that's why I always recommend Power of Now to so many people, and to just turn it into a practice, 10 minutes a day. I actually started this when I was in my corporate job. I would take a break for 20 minutes and I would go on a walk and just listen to him, and I would just observe, and I would like get into my senses, get into the present moment. And this is what I feel like a huge part of what helped me to grow in a really fast time in a short amount of period.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm eternally grateful to you for recommending me that book. I'd heard of Eckhart Tolle before. I think I watched one of his lectures on YouTube years ago, and I was like, he's kind of strange. But you told me to read that book, and I got the Audible, and you're right. He has a very soothing accent. He narrates his own books.
Yeah.
And man, I went to Lake Medina, which is like my favorite park in the area, and I just walked really slowly down the trail with my earbuds in and just listened to every single word. And
yeah.
I've done that multiple times now. Like whenever I'm stressed, that's one of the things I do is I just listen to a chapter of that book. You can jump into any of the chapters and just listen to what he says, and it just makes sense. It really is a powerful book. So maybe I'll put a link to that book in the description so anyone listening can check it out if they want. But
absolutely.
Yeah. So let's see. I asked you about your book. The next question I have on here is a personal question. So I have struggled with a lot of anxiety and even sometimes depression in the past. If you want to learn more about that, listen to the earlier episode about my life. But is there anything specific, some specific advice that you can give our listeners who are struggling with anxiety or depression in particular?
Yeah. So in this moment, I'm being guided to talk a little bit about anxiety. And these are the specific energies that I help my clients work through, because these are the root cause of most issues.
Right.
So for anxiety in particular, this is a specific mechanism of the mind. And what the mind does is anytime you're anxious, what you have to realize is that it's about something that's potentially going to happen in the future. So the mind creates a potential future in the reality. This is the first movement of the mind. It goes, oh, this might happen. which may or may not be true. And so it creates a potential future story, and then you have an emotional reaction to that story. Mm-hmm. So first of all, just, again, being aware that this mechanism is going on, that's the first step, right? Awareness of it, not trying to figure it out, not trying to fix it, not trying to understand why this is happening, going into a victim mentality, but just being aware that your mind is creating a story and then having an emotional reaction to that. And so when people have panic attacks, this is happening, and then they're having another emotional reaction to their emotional reaction. They call it panic. It's like, you know what I mean? So that's the first step, is just being aware of that your mind is creating a story. And then what you can do is just question what story is my mind creating in this moment, and just becoming super aware of what story your mind is creating. It might be like not being able to pay the bills this month. It might be like, I'm going to a dinner with my family, my mom might say this, and then it's like and then you're just like freaking out about a story that's going on in your mind. And so just becoming aware of this, and then you have the conscious choice. Okay, do I want to drop this story? Mm-hmm. Because this story is just in the mind. It's just a future potential reality that may or may not happen, and it's keeping you from being fully present, from being fully here, being fully conscious here now. Another way to do it is, it's like more like short-term relief. It's just being like, okay, I don't care what happens. It's like when you notice you're anxious and it's like, oh my God, this might happen. I'm freaking out. It's just like, all right, just let go. Like, you know what? I give up. I don't care. And I don't mean by being like, all right, I don't care, I'm gonna fuck you guys. I don't mean like saying a lot of like saying like really negative things and being like, all right, I'm just gonna sabotage everything. I'm more so saying like, hey, I don't like just let go of attachment to outcome. And then in that moment, you'll just find there's a relief, because you're not worrying about the future potential reality. And then for those people who are really like resonating with what I'm saying, there are specific ways to what I call metaphysically transform parts about your mind that are creating this. You address the part of your mind that's creating this future potential reality, and you can also address the emotional reaction that you have it. But this is more for people who want to go deeper. For people who like are just looking for something right now, ask yourself, what story is my mind creating, and can I drop this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of something one of my mentors taught me, which was you can kind of not get rid of your fear, but you can cope with it a little bit better if you just take a moment to imagine what the worst possible outcome is, like with the exception of death, right?
Yeah.
And like if this went as wrong as it possibly could, what's the worst thing that could happen? So like if you're scared about running a Facebook ad, like what's the worst that could happen? Like you spend $100 and don't get a single phone call. Like, okay. Or like maybe if it's something a little more general, like starting a business, like you go bankrupt and you lose your house. Like, okay, what would I do? And then you ask yourself, what would I do if that happened? And it'd be like, well, I'd go move in with my parents. I'd get a job. I'd save up money, and then I'd try again. And then you just realize that like, wow, if that did happen, like I do have a response. Like I'm not going to die. I'm not going to lose myself. And nothing's really ever as serious as we tend to think it is. One of my favorite philosophers, Seneca, once said, we suffer more often in the mind than reality. And I think that's exactly what anxiety is. So
100%, man, because the anxiety, the source of it is the mind, and that's where it comes from. And it's really interesting. All of this, everything that we're talking about right now is predicated on the fact that the mind thinks it needs to control everything. When what people have to realize is that we're connected to this earth. We're connected to all of existence. And all of existence has been thriving really well by itself. And so there's part of this connection to the cosmos that is going to take care of us, And anytime we're too lost in the mind, it's because there's a belief that we have that bad things are going to happen. And when you have the belief that bad things are going to happen, guess what's going to happen? And so when you bring awareness to this negative belief, this what most people call limiting belief, then true transformation can happen. Because if you're aware of it and you recognize like, hey, this isn't serving me any longer, then it starts to move out of your system. Right?
Yeah.
And it starts to disappear.
Yeah. And like, that's why things like visualization and practicing gratitude and affirmations and, you know, the law of attraction, all of these things are like threads in the same tapestry. It comes down to like, what are you thinking about? Right? Because if you're thinking about garbage, you're going to propagate those patterns and you're going to think about more garbage.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, for me at least, I know it was just like, it was like, I got to practice some psychological hygiene. Like I work out, I lift weights, I eat healthy, I take showers, right?
Yeah.
I drink water, I use soap, but like, what are you doing with your brain? Like, are you practicing psychological hygiene? Like most people, they just don't think about it that way. And you just got to clean the house out, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think most people understand how powerful what you're talking about really is.
Yeah. I don't even think I still understand how powerful it's something I'm still learning.
Yeah. Like literally to the point where like I try to communicate, or I do communicate to people that I honestly, the experience that I'm having, that 90 to 99% of my capabilities in life, of my opportunities, of the relationships that I have, of the results that I produce, basically anything, it honestly feels like 90% of it is due to what is your inner operating system. Beliefs, thoughts, perspectives, emotions, feelings, patterns. This is the experience that I'm having, because now that I've found a way to shift this inside myself, it literally feels like just doing that alone, then changes flow from that change, right? Yeah. My outer world changes from this place of, you know, switching the thoughts, the perspective, the mindset, and literally just coming into a place of more intuitive clarity, so that my creative genius guides me in every moment from a place of what I like to call no thought. You know, those are the moments where I'm most creative, right? I actually did do a yoga session last night, and when I came out of it, all of a sudden I just knew with clarity, go to your computer, sit down and write. And I sat down and just wrote for 2.5 hours. And it just came out of me, and I wasn't even thinking the whole time. It was just, and it was just like, oh my God, I have content for the next week. You know?
Yeah, I have experiences like that too. This is kind of off the trail, but here, one of the things that I've noticed is that lately, yes, I've been having more of a craving for quiet. There's a lot of noise in my brain, and you know, whether it's ADHD or you know, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. The fact is, I know that I need quiet, and I need to like silence the voices in there. And one of the most effective ways that I have found to quiet my brain is to just do something that is really physically demanding. Like make it so uncomfortable, you know, you don't want to hurt yourself, but make it so uncomfortable that you don't have time to think about petty things that don't matter. Like all you can think about right now is like your muscles and your breathing and your heartbeat. And so like I ran my first half marathon a few weeks ago, and like the rest of that day, I felt amazing. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was proud of myself for running the marathon. And while I was running it, I was listening to music, but you know, there were some stretches where I just took my earbuds out and just listened to my breath. But I mean, 13 miles, it was like, I think I did it in just under 3 hours. It was like 3 hours of just clarity and serenity. Like I was alive because I could feel my body. I could feel the pain, and I wasn't thinking about things that I'm not.
Yeah.
You know? And then another thing is really ice cold showers. Every time I take an ice cold shower, when I'm done, I want to film YouTube videos. I get out of the shower and I'm like, man, I'm energized. Like I want to go film a YouTube video. So yeah, I mean, do you practice things like fasting or cold showers or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been a huge fan of cold showers. And what I feel like you're referring to is what I call a body awareness, you know, which is another practice that I cultivate every day, because what you have to understand is that, like, if your viewers are watching this on video or recording, I'm not sure, but it's almost like when you're lost in your mind, or when you're in like kind of thought patterns, and just kind of like, it's like you're up here. It's like you're in this like cloud. That's why you see some people thinking and they're like,
yeah, they're looking up.
Like looking up, it's like you're trying to talk to someone, and then you ask them a question, they're like thinking about the answer, and it's like a common thing that most people do. And
Right.
so like this, what most people don't realize is that when you're, this is why actually people love extreme sports. They love to get out in nature, because when you're at those places of like beauty and excitement and joy, or like what you're referring to, like running and cold showers, you're not thinking, you're actually coming more down into the body. And this is where you're more connected to silence, stillness, presence, peace, creativity, joy, love. And that's why I loved, honestly, my favorite is HIIT sprints, HIIT, like high intensity training. Yeah. Because I'm just like, you sprint so fast, and then but you don't actually need, like, those practices are meant to just give you a little taste, a little flavor of the state of presence, of the state of what it's like to actually be in your body. Because the more you bring your awareness down into your body, I think this was actually one of the practices I first walked you through. I was like, put your hand up and see if you can sense
I remember
your right palm. Yeah. And so the more, and that's why, like, anyone who's listening here, try not to think about your exercise, your shower, whatever you're doing, as something on the to-do list, right? Because then it's just a means to the end, where it's like, oh, I have to exercise in order to be healthy. But the more presence you can bring into that moment and fully enjoy it, right? This is where joy comes from, right? It's like, why are we doing what we do? Why are we starting these businesses? Why are we exercising? Why? It's like, the more you fully envelop yourself in this moment, and even if you're in a relationship with someone and you're with them and you're communicating, the more you bring your presence into your body and live through your heart, the more you have that silence, and that's where the creativity comes from. That's where, like that's where you're actually living your life, right? Instead of interpreting life through a thought, right? And because if there are negative thoughts and you're interpreting life through your thoughts, then, like, I'm sure that most people have that experience and are ready for a new one. But I love to do those types of things, my man, like cold showers. I don't do them every day. Some days I'm a little bit too much of a wussy.
It's hard. It's hard to do a cold shower every day.
Yeah.
How cold is the water up in Seattle?
I feel like it gets colder, like around this time of year, when the outside temperature starts getting colder. That's when it's like, stepping outside of here, I might not feel my toes,
Yeah, in northeastern Ohio, like January, February, I get city water from Wadsworth, and it's like one of those big open air treatment plants.
Yeah.
So like the water is really cold in winter.
I believe it.
But yeah,
I believe it, man. Yeah, when I'm going to Thailand, you actually, like, can't take a hot shower. It's kind of funny. It's like, I mean, you can, but it's like you want to take a cold shower. You're like waiting for it.
Yeah. No,
in the AC.
I bet. There's days in the summer where, like, I'm taking a cold shower. Like, I want this. It's hot out. All right. So I pulled. How are we doing for time, by the way?
I'm good, bro. I don't have anything for the next.
Perfect.
We can go as long as we need to.
Awesome. Well, I want to get through all these questions because I'm really enjoying this so far. So
awesome.
I pulled a quote from your Facebook wall. You might not remember posting this, maybe you will, but it really appealed to me, and I just want you to elaborate on it. So here's the quote. Rather than exhaustingly figuring out how to be happy and fulfilled, visualizing oneself as being happy and controlling a mind-based false reality identity in that, you can instead simply address all the blocks and resistances to happiness and experience your natural state of authentic, limitless happiness, no matter where you are, what you're doing. Tell me about that, because that sounds amazing.
Absolutely, my friend. So while I did kind of give you the don't try to meditate speech, the truth is I have spent a lot of time in meditation, contemplation, reading scriptures from almost every religion in the world. Not that I'm not saying that religion is the answer, but just a lot of looking into what the truth of existence is, the truth of reality. And the farthest truth of which that I've been able to discover is that the canvas of life, and don't believe what I say, just try to perceive the truth, but it seems like the canvas of life itself, literally what life is made out of, is consciousness. And what I mean by consciousness is there's different elements of consciousness. Awareness, love, joy, gratitude, peace, serenity, happiness with no opposite. This is what I've been able to experience as just what is. And that what keeps us from seeing that is this experience that we've chosen to take ourselves upon, which is being a human in a human body and creating this separate sense of self of this is me and that is not me. I am this is my name, and being identified with sort of your mind, just your thoughts. It's coming back to mindset, right?
Right.
And so rather than what the biggest mistake that I made after I had that moment in my corporate career, right, where I was like, oh my God, I need to get the F out of here, that was when I went into trying to create happiness and trying to control my reality. I made the assumption that as long as if I get a different job, if I get a job in my passion, I was following the formula, right? if I become an entrepreneur, if I get a job in my passion, if I travel the world, if I do all these things, make this money, whatever, then I'll be happy, right? Trying to create that happiness. And so I did that. And again, trying to create that happiness didn't work out. I didn't know how that happiness was already inside of me. That joy, that fulfillment was already here. This is, like I said, the canvas of life. This is the deepest truth that I've been able to experience, is that life is already that way. And instead of trying to create it, now all I simply do is I address my blocks to experiencing what life is already like. And so it's like a reversal of what I used to do, which is trying to create happiness, trying to insert happiness on top of it, trying to add something, when now I understand that, hey, happiness and joy already is. And any time that I'm in a happy or joyful or blissful state, or feeling good and feeling alignment with truth, it's because there's some filter that I have, that I'm seeing the world through, right? Yeah. It's not that the thing on the news is bad, or it's that my filter that I'm experiencing life is keeping me from experiencing bliss. And so this is just like a way to take responsibility, right? It's kind of an advanced technique that most people won't be able to understand, but it's really just a way that I use so that I'm always coming back into my power. I'm always taking responsibility for the way in which I see the world, so that I can, in every moment, turn the moment from a problem into an opportunity for growth. And anytime something quote, quote, bad is happening, I address my block. That's what I call blocks or pains. And so now, like, literally most of my sessions with clients, as well as the sessions that I receive from my mentors, is just saying what's going on in our lives, and then us mirroring back to each other. Oh, like, this is a perspective that I have. This is a block that I have. Because once you have that awareness of it, then it can move. It can shift out of your system. And then immediately more love, more joy, more peace, more bliss just fills the space. It's already there, right? That's what I'm getting at. Is that the happiness and the joy, it's just what exists. It's just the truth of reality. And in any moment, we're not experiencing that. It's simply because we have a block. It's simply because there's something inside of us that is keeping us from experiencing that. And so literally everything that I work with people is how to address those blocks. I don't teach people how to create happiness. I don't teach people how to create joy or how to go out and find it. I just give them the tools so that they can realize the happiness, the joy, the fulfillment that's already there. And then that is what guides them to their highest fulfillment possible. Is what I call your creative genius, so that you can navigate through your life and just be in this system where you're constantly letting go of your blocks. Because what most people also don't realize is that you only have a certain amount of blocks. You only have a certain amount of emotions or thought patterns. And if you don't know how to let them go, you get more and more of them. But the moment you learn the art of presence and the metaphysical, whatever, vulnerability healing technique, there's other ways to do it, right? It's not like I'm the only way, but then you can address them, and you have less and less and less and less and less. And what fills the space is what already is more peace, more limitless happiness, as you quoted me on.
It's almost like, maybe this is a thing just for the Western world. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's humans in general. But it almost sounds to me like we've been asking ourselves the wrong questions. Like, why am I not happy? And it's like, and then you start listing off like the problems with your life. And just like hearing you say that, like, happiness is here. It's our natural state. we're just thinking about it wrong. Like there's filters, there's walls that we can't see over, and like we built those walls for ourselves.
Yeah.
That's wild to me, because I see what you're saying, and it is kind of true. Like if you can just remove the things that you think are problems in your own head and just think clearly, like only breathing, only being present without thinking about the world, nothing external, and just like think about it.
Yeah.
Like, where's the happiness? It's not gone. It didn't go anywhere. Like, it's right there.
And what people don't realize is that they think they need problems in order to survive, in order to grow, in order to do this. When I'm now introducing that, hey, the more you actually let go of that stuff, it's actually the more effective you become, right? I saw a post this morning, which like I totally feel where he's at, but he basically said like, I just reached my goal. And then after some temporary celebration, I realized my next vision and how like I can't wait to get more. And it was basically like, what you have to understand is that if there's always a need for more, that's coming from a belief that there's not enough. And most people think that, oh, in order to grow, I have to be unhappy. When I'm actually telling most people now is that you can grow through a different energy of happiness. You don't have to have that need for more. In fact, that need for more is actually just recreating the same circumstances, because even if you get the next level, there's going to be a next thing that comes up, or a new problem, or something else that the mind is going to attach itself to and says it doesn't have enough to. And this is
just a belief that there's not enough. Like that struck a chord with me.
And I'm constantly having to do this in every area of my life, because like we like I'm constantly seeing how like, oh, like if I say like, oh, I want to reach the next income level, like what's underneath that is a belief that I don't have enough money, right? And so once I address that, then over time, you might find more money in your bank account or not. Either way, the pain of that is gone. Right. Mm-hmm. And you're much more clear on like, okay, what do I need? So that you don't have to do what I did and do all these crazy things, like investing like over 5-6 figures in different teachers and making all these mistakes and coming to all these failures and like going off in these wrong paths. Instead, you can address the block and then allow the clarity of your heart's truth to utilize your creative genius to navigate you towards your highest fulfillment possible. Because it's really important for most people to understand that America right now, one of the most luxurious places on the entire earth, is one of the least happy. Yeah. And most people don't see this. America itself is a country that is a prime example of somewhere that has everything, but nothing at the same time. We have all the material. Like we can literally press a button. I can literally press a button and get a meal in half an hour. Mm-hmm. Like cooked, like literally from my favorite place in the world. Yeah. Like I could, like that type of luxury has never, technology and systematic like economic exchange has never been invented. It's a country that has everything at the tip of its fingers, but nothing at the same time. No level of inner fulfillment. One of those depressed and angry countries in the world. There's statistics. You can look it up. Go on Google.
The United States has 2/3 of the world's antidepressant prescriptions and only 3% of the world's population.
See, that just goes to show, bro. Because and they even map it out that the more rich you get, like sometimes like there are some level, but like
the more money you spend on your wedding, the more likely you are to get divorced.
Yeah, and just wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I had no idea that's actually really funny.
My wedding was like $6,000.
And I just want to be clear
that barbecue was awesome.
And I just want to be really clear that there's nothing wrong with material prosperity. There's nothing wrong with making money, right? It's just that most people, the majority, 99% of people are using that as a cover-up for their own blocks to happiness, or using it from the cover-up the blocks from pain. When we have a way to address their pain, then you can get the best of both worlds, right? What I say is like, why not, achieve happiness on the inside, achieve that permanent fulfillment and freedom, you know, on the inside first or simultaneously, as well as, you know, then you can achieve the success, then you can have material prosperity. And like, that's where I feel like you get a blending of East and West. There's different ways that the different like sections of the earth. Now Western culture is dominating the earth now because of its material prosperity. But now, like, what I feel like what we're here to do is introduce a new way that, hey, this Western world, what is missing is that inner sense of fulfillment, that inner sense of freedom. And this is my mission.
Yeah, that totally resonates with me. And it's such a strange path by which I have come to the mental place where I now reside. Because in high school, I had a falling out with my religion. I had a religious upbringing. And for a few years, I was a very angry, militant atheist. And I took out my anger on the people around me and the institutions. And I felt betrayed because religion had been the one thing that gave me peace. And when it stopped aligning with my worldview, it felt like my identity had been attacked, right?
Yeah.
And now we're in a world, and this could be a huge generalization, so, you know, ignore me if I'm wrong. But I feel like in the Western world, like our culture and our materialism and consumerism and politics have kind of dominated the world. And now you have the most secular, least religious generation growing up in America, the millennials, right? Least religious generation in the history of the US, probably Western civilization. And they're so obsessed with things like Buddhism and Zen and meditation, because so many of us are like, we might not have that religious fervor anymore, but we're still searching for something to fill a hole that is so obviously there, right? And like, what caused that hole? Like, what made that? And I think it was the loss of spirituality. You know, whether you like religion or not, whether you practice or not, that's your business. And I think if you find something positive that's strong, then you should keep it. But a lot of people, a lot of my friends, people in my generation, we weren't able to use the systems that were given to us. And so now we're just kind of desperately searching for a new, you know, a new frame of reference. And that's why I think people like you and the message that you're giving out to the world, especially to young people, corporate people, even Gen X and the newer generations who are coming out of high school right now, your message is so important because we've seen what happens. We've seen what happens when that mindfulness, that spirituality isn't there. And I don't think it's good. I think the antidepressants, the rising suicide rates. I saw some other statistics the other day about millennials, and it said something like, I think only 11% of millennials have talked to their neighbor. And then I think only 8% of millennials think strangers are generally trustworthy. And it's just that breakdown of positivity, for lack of a better word. But
I couldn't agree more, my friend. I feel like everything that's happening on a collective level is literally just a microcosm of what's happening on individual level. The entire wellness movement, yoga, like, you know, like eating veggies, this was all birthed from the era of 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
In the 90s, in the early 2000s, like people before the economic recession, people really started to get like, oh, I have all the things, but I'm freaking unhappy. Yeah. And then all of a sudden airplanes hit the place and people are just like, what the hell is going on? What is wrong?
People are like, wow, the world's not done yet, you know, like
literally right after that. Right after that, yoga started taking off. Like the wellness movement was birthed from unhappiness. You need to like really get that, right? And that's how important this is, because I honestly truly feel like this is what's slowly draining and poisoning the earth. Though I feel like the entire pollution and global warming is literally just a reflection of like how psychically unhappy humanity might become. And like it's the power is in our hands individually. We every single person, you know, has the power, the conscious choice to think a new thought, to become more present, to make that decision.
Yeah, and I'm not conspiratorial. I'm not woo-woo or anything like that. But I am going to come out and say it. And the way that Americans are just medicating their problems away is going to destroy us if we don't start fixing it.
It's definitely, yeah.
For a while, I wrestled with ADHD medication. I tried Ritalin, Strattera, Vyvanse, and man, they change you. You take that pill, and I can't tell you exactly what it does, but you change. It does. It's scary stuff. I'm just going to leave it at that.
It's definitely delaying the rising of consciousness across the planet, because this is again coming back to what is the key indicator for your life. And it comes down to your inner operating system, your mindset. And what most people are doing is they can't handle what's going on up in here, right? Mm-hmm. Across the entire, that's why they turn to drugs. This is the story of my life. And I'm saying this because I was that guy. I literally, throughout college, after college, just I had to turn to that stuff, you know, in order to silence that critic, the mind, basically the prison that everyone's in, right? And that's why people turn to alcohol. That's why people use drugs. That's why. So the moment that they start to peel away that suppression and learn how to be with themselves, learn how to be with their lives, learn how to be with what's going on. And that's why I give people techniques on how to let go of negativity, how to let go of the blocks, so that it doesn't drive you crazy or whatever, and you don't have to use drugs that literally change you in a way that you're not going to be happy with.
Yeah. And I mean, only a Sith speaks in absolutes, right? I'm not saying that medication is never the answer. I think for some people, it serves a purpose, but a lot of people just need to be asking themselves, what's the root of this pain? And the medication can cover up the symptom, but until you dig at that root, you can start to make this go away. You can make it weaker, but you have to dig at the root. You don't get rid of weeds by, covering them up. You pull them out by the root, and it hurts. It's painful, right?
Trying to plant a flower on top of it.
Yeah. I mean, and this can be a painful process. I know better than anyone else what it's like to stop taking a medication that fixed you and just be I can't do this anymore. I have to go slap the dragon. I have to face this. And it's scary and it's not fun. But there are ways to get through this. And there's a lot of reasons why people aren't talking about them. Is it, big pharma using money to suppress information? I don't know. But I know that there are techniques and there are methods that a lot of people can use. Right. Yeah. So before we go off the rails on big pharma and medication and everything,
let's keep it focused.
Actually, this is kind of a good segue. So the next question I have for you is, this is one of my favorite questions to ask guests. So what is the hardest thing you have had to learn since you started this journey? So since you quit your job, your corporate job, what's the most difficult thing you've had to learn, and how'd you do it?
Yeah, really comes back to taking 100% responsibility. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is definitely the number one lesson. This implies at micro levels and macro levels, but really learning how to release blame. There's so many excuses that my mind would give me for why something is not my fault, for why I'm a victim, for why I deserve more help, or why the system shouldn't be the way that it is. But all of that just gives away your power, right? Just gives away your power. And this applies to business, applies to relationships, this applies to anything. Anytime that I'm blaming anyone outside of myself and not taking responsibility for how I feel in this moment, and for what my mind is doing and for what my actions are, it always leads to suffering. And when I learned how to take responsibility, it sucks when you do it all the time.
Yeah. You got to stop and you bring down the shutters, right? You bring down the walls and you're standing amid the flaming wreckage of your life. And you're like, well, maybe this is my fault. I've been there.
Yeah. And not looking to anyone else to save you and not, and all this type of stuff. when I learned how to do this, at first it was very, very hard, especially because I didn't want to feel the way that I was feeling about
Mhm.
like, what I needed to do, about what I was being called to do, right? A lot of people listening to this, they're probably being called to do a really big thing in life, and that might freak them out.
Yeah.
It sure as hell does to me every day. And now I learn how to address that because I take responsibility for it. You know what I mean? That's what I learned how to do, was to take responsibility for it inside myself and to move forward to what my heart was calling me to do, in every day. And so, yeah, I don't really have a specific like story to illustrate this right now. But I reached almost six figures in debt when I when I came to a really, really challenging part of my entrepreneurial journey. I was in depression for months on end. I reached total burnout in my life, months on end, had no energy, right? And like was like honestly having suicidal thoughts for a while. And it got really dark and it got really deep and scary. And it was in that moment where I fully accepted my present situation that I began to take responsibility. And I started to disidentify from the anxious story that my mind was creating, that things were wrong, that were bad, and I was a victim, and the world should help me more. And I started to really see how that was just a product of my mind, and that was not who I was. And in that state of presence, that was when grace came through, you know. And that was when I started to learn a way to let go of the depression inside of me, to let go of the anxiety inside of me, to let go of certain emotions that were keeping me back and holding me back. That it didn't matter after I left the corporate job and got that, got all the, traveled the world and did all the things, all my pain still came back up and showed itself because I hadn't learned how to take responsibility for that, how to let go of these mental issues and release them through the physical body. And that was when I first went to Thailand, and I first was blessed with people who taught me a transformational technique called vulnerability, called metaphysical transformation. And that was when I finally learned how to let go of my inner blocks, my stress. And that was when I started to learn that peace comes from within. Happiness is already here. And this completely radically transformed my life the moment that I took responsibility for it. And now it's like a year and a half later, and it's like literally my entire life is different. And I'm like, I'm on a fast path, but like you can literally, this is available to anyone. This is literally like, you can literally transform your life from the inside out the moment you learn how to take responsibility for what's going on in your mind. And don't blame the news. I know that we talk about what's wrong, but the only way that we can actually change that, the only way that we can actually do anything about that, is by taking responsibility for our lives, what's going on in this moment,
Right.
and being an alchemist in that way.
Yeah. I posted a rant video the other day about this. Just the way that people, I think it's funny how the right and the left are always accusing each other of certain things, but they both do the same things. I don't really care what your political affiliation is, but gosh, the way that people treat like Facebook and Instagram as if they post a meme or an article or they write a couple paragraphs about something,
Yeah.
Why are they doing that? Do they really think that they're going to change anyone's opinion, or are they doing it to kind of make themselves feel better?
Yeah.
Are they
More
doing it to
superior.
this is what I believe. This is my stance. And like, this is my impact. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, that's not your impact. Your impact is what you do with your life. It's how you treat people. It's like what you do. It's not what you write online. It's so important to take responsibility and just recognize that you do play a real part, but it's not the one that you're portraying on your social media. That's why I hardly ever post on my Facebook, because I don't feel like the things that I say on social media are really doing any good for the world. Sometimes you can write a really inspiring post or something meaningful you can say or send to someone, and that does make a difference. But 95% of the things people post on their social media, it's not doing anything. Like, I recycle everything in my house. I take a big recycling bin. That's how I fight climate change. I don't do it by posting articles. And you got to be like that about every area of your life, right? You have to say, like, what can I actually do to fix this? Because thinking or talking about it is not the answer, right?
Yeah. Like, are you polluting the world or cleaning up the mess?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that with everything. And I think the world needs a little less activism and just a little bit more responsibility. Again, that's just my opinion. So
yeah. And there is a lot of this happening on the earth too. We don't mean to be negative Nancy's, but like there is a lot of stuff like getting better. Obviously, if we're having this conversation and being real about it, you know.
Yeah. There, you know, and there's good and bad. You know, you got to pay attention to both. It's a lot of gray area too,
Yeah.
which is hard for some people to accept. But
yeah, absolutely, my friend.
All right, so we got 3 questions left. Feel free to repeat yourself for this one if you need to, because I feel like we covered a lot of your ideas and techniques so far. But this is a question I ask everyone towards the end of their interview. And each of us live a unique life, and we have to fight unique battles, right? Sometimes against elements of the outside world, and actually most of the time against ourselves, right, in our inner world. So take a moment to tell us about 2 or 3 of the most important things that you can say, the most important things that you've learned about how to fight these battles. Like when you're confronted with an obstacle, what are some of the best things that people can do to win these battles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here, what I feel called to share right now is actually, what is your relationship to the challenge, to the obstacle? Because when I changed my relationship to what I call blocks or obstacles, everything changed. Because most people, when they become aware of something as an obstacle to greater results in their business, in their life, or whatever, then they have an emotional reaction to that, and something's wrong, something's bad, and they need to fix it, right? My relationship to a block now is that this is an opportunity for growth. You know, this is a practice of self-awareness, right? And so anytime an issue or something comes up in my life, it's actually a really good success, because what was unconscious, what was already blocking me, right? Blocks are going off 24/7.
Right.
What was unconscious, I now have awareness of. And now I'm constantly deepening in my own self-awareness so that my relationship with the block it's a success. It's like, I get giddy with it. And it's really cool when I have clients who like reach this level where they know they now are excited to see where they're blocked, you know, and so that they can transform it. It's like no, like I literally have clients who are like hungry to be like, hey, this issue is showing up in my life. What's going on? And then I help them see like what they can't currently see. So then we shift it, and then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, it's out of their experience, and they have a completely new experience of life. Right? And so just making that switch of like, oh, I'm going through a hard time in my life. How am I relating to this? Do I see this as a block? Do I see this as an issue? Is this a problem, or is this an opportunity for me to grow? Or is this an act of self-awareness where I can then take responsibility? You know,
that reminds me of something I teach my clients in the mindset unit of my course. And it's a little strategy that I call gamifying life. And I use this analogy. Like if you think about video games, like an RPG, a role-playing game, you start at like level 0, you have like a set number of skills and perks, and you get quests with objectives. And every time you know, defeat a monster or complete a quest, you level up, you get experience. It pops up on your screen. You see it. Your character gets fancier armor. You get to put skill points in different things. And that's why people love it, because they're constantly getting feedback. Like you did something that was hard. You completed a task and you got a reward. Like you can see it. The experience bar moved.
Yeah.
Right? And you get new skills and new items. And like that's the feedback that we crave. And a lot of people don't do that with their life. Like, oh, I completed my homework. Like, thank God. It's like, no, like your skill bar just went up. Like your intelligence score just went up. You got experience. Like now you're ready to complete that test. Like the test is a quest that you weren't ready for at level 2, but now you're at level 3 and you can go do that. And like everything in your life is a stepping stone. And you know, what you just said kind of reminds me of that, because people don't appreciate like the actual feedback that they're getting, and they're looking at things as problems, right? Whereas in a video game, you're excited about the dungeon, you're excited about the quest, because you know you're going to level up at the end, right? And it's like life is no different. Like those video games are based on life, right?
So true, my friend. So true. The reality is that this whole game of life is not about solving your problems. It's realizing that there are no problems.
Yeah. And I have friends who play these games and they restart them. Like I have friends who play World of Warcraft, and like one of my buddies just made like his 7th character because he's addicted to the journey, the process. He loves the mechanics. He loves the actual conflict from getting to level 0 to level 100.
Yeah.
I'm like, make your life like that.
Yes, 100%, bro. When you're fully present in this moment, when you're fully conscious, right? Mm-hmm. You perceive that everything that happened in the past was fully orchestrated perfectly so that you could have that experience, right? As well as whatever destination that you end up in, that's going to happen in this moment too. So when you're fully present, fully conscious, this comes back to a lot of this Eckhart Tolle stuff, the journey becomes so much more enjoyable, and you're able to address your obstacles way more eloquently, with way more ease, grace, and flow. It just becomes this a really intimate experience of life, I find, that makes life really enjoyable, I would say. 100%.
Love it. All right, man. So tell my audience what your mission in life is. When you are dead and gone, your bones in the ground somewhere, what do you want the still living people who knew you to say about you and what you did here?
Oh, yeah. When I think about this, what type of, legacy would I want to leave? I honestly don't really care if people really remember me. Mm-hmm. But while I'm here, I just want to share with as many people as possible the ability to be able to follow the truth of their own heart, to awaken that creative genius inside of themselves, so that they can experience whatever is in their heart of their highest fulfillment possible. And to me, this is becoming much more conscious, much more aware, much more in tune with the truth of who we all are, of which all humans are. Part of this similar organism, which is called Earth. We're all part of the same body, and then all part of the same upper body of this universe. Mm-hmm. And the more that people will be able to learn how to awaken this creative genius and follow the path of their heart's truth, then they'll be able to experience that however way that they see fit. And so that's what I'm here to share with people, that the issues and struggles that they're going with, if they just find a way to move through them, then they'll develop that intuitive clarity of what is right for them. And that's what I just want to share with as many people as possible, because I would not be here today without learning how to do this, without going through this metaphysical process of transforming my limitations from my thoughts and my emotions. I honestly, dude, I had some pretty crazy depressions, pretty crazy suicidal thoughts. Like, if I had not learned this in the nick of time, I honestly don't think I would be like sharing with you today. And I'd say this from a place of total truth inside of me. And like, there's no part of me that's like even hesitating in saying that. And so if this amount of transformation, if I can feel this, if I can have this amount of transformation, then I just want to share this with as many people as possible. And I know that happens in many different ways to many different people. And so that's my mission in life, is just to help people transform from the inside out. Because if you're like me, you've been trying to do the outside in for a long time and getting that feedback of just what's inside. It's like, try to change the outside and you just get the feedback of, oh, it's in here. So I help people reverse the process, go inside first, and then truth of the heart becomes more clear. And so that's my mission.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. All right, man. The floor is yours. So tell my listeners where they can learn more about you, where they can follow you, connect with you, join your tribe, and tell us all about the new and exciting offers, big things you've got coming up, because I know some of the people listening to this want to connect with you. So fill us in.
Awesome, bro. I'm doing the exact opposite of you. So literally everything right now is completely focused on my personal Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And everything else is going to kind of like LinkedIn, website, everything's going to come together over time. But if you'd like to follow me, just send me a friend request. Well, I'm sure we'll be able to give you a link to my personal Facebook page.
You put that in the description.
Absolutely. And so that's where I'm at right now. And that's where I'll be posting literally every day, constantly sharing this metaphysical transformation technique. And right now, my biggest offer is this is a limited time. It's not going to be forever because my client base is growing. I don't know how long I'm going to be offering this, but if you resonate with what I said, some truth inside of you resonates with truth inside of me, just send me a message, And if you have that ability,
credit, guys. That's what I did.
Yeah, if you have that ability to have that humility and vulnerability to just share, hey, like this is what's going on. Like, I'll just do my best to help you out, right? I'm doing free metaphysical sessions, or not. That having a session might not be like in your highest fulfillment possible right now. But for the limited time offer, I'm doing free sessions, putting together people a plan for how they can transform their life from the inside out and awaken their creative genius so that you can move forward and discover your highest fulfillment possible in life and career. So Facebook, I'm here for you, like, on direct messenger. And also, like, I got slots available on my calendar right now for limited time only. And then over time, I'll be able to use people's feedback and create something else. But that's all that's happening right now.
Love it. All right, folks, you heard it here from Kurt Schiewetz. I will be putting all of the appropriate links in the description. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'll put it in the top comment and pin it. I'll make sure that you guys have access to all of Kurt's platforms so you can connect with him. It's been a real pleasure, my brother. I want to thank you one more time so much for coming on here for about an hour and 36 minutes, sharing all of this value with us. We appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been all my pleasure, my man. I love what you do, love what you're about. And so thank you, and extra thank you for pronouncing my last name right. You're one of the first people.
I asked you before the show. Don't give me undue credit.
All right, brother. Thank you so much.
You take care of yourself.
Take care, bro.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Seeking Clear podcast. I truly hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this podcast and you want more of it, you can watch it on the YouTube channel over at Andrew Wuellner, and you can also listen to it on the major podcasting platforms, anywhere podcasts are found. You can support the channel by subscribing to the YouTube channel, downloading it, sharing it, showing it to your friends. All of that is greatly appreciated. I love the support. It shows me that you guys are getting something from this podcast, and I will continue to do it as long as that is the case. But if subscribing or sharing doesn't feel like enough for you and you want to do more to support the channel, you can go to my website, andrewwuellner.com, and check out what I do, what I offer, see if you might be a good fit for one of my coaching programs or my courses. And you can also go to andrewwuellner.com/resources to see all of my special offers. On this page, I have links that will take you to some of my favorite products and services that I personally use, that I personally love, and I would highly recommend you guys use in your lives to help you improve your quality of life or your quality of business. For example, if you are an entrepreneur or a business owner who sells a service or a product online, you need to be using sales funnels. And if you're using sales funnels, you need to be using ClickFunnels, because ClickFunnels allows you to build the largest number of high quality funnels. You can build websites, membership sites, webinars, VSLs, opt-in pages. All of it's possible, and it integrates with all of your favorite technology, your payment processors, your autoresponders, Zapier, everything. The customer service is second to none, and ClickFunnels has a perfect track record of being an amazing software. In fact, my entire website, andrewwuellner.com, is built on ClickFunnels. So if you want to see what it can do, just look around my website. I've used just about every integration that's possible. But if you go to andrewwuellner.com/resources, you will see a link for a free 14-day trial of ClickFunnels. If you join using my link, it supports me, it supports the channel, and I will also support you by sending you free to download my very best templates from my own marketing campaigns, including webinar funnels, homepage funnels, and opt-in lead generation funnels. I will also give you a free 5 to 10 minute video audit of your website and funnels when they're done. This is normally something I only do with my one-to-one paying clients. But if you use my affiliate link, you build some funnels, you build your website, all you have to do is email me, send me the link. I will see that you are one of my affiliates, and I will check out your branding, your copywriting. I'll look at your funnel, I'll look at your website, and I will film a video and send it back to you and let you know exactly what I think, what you can improve, what I love. And I will do everything I can to support you and your online business, because you guys are supporting me and I appreciate you that much. So please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for sharing, for watching this podcast. Go to andrewwuellner.com/resources to see more ways that you can help support me and improve your own life. And I will see you guys in the next episode of the Seeking Clear podcast. Take care.